autumn night on the outskirts of Oregon, USA. The forest air was thick with dampness, the cold seeping through the towering trees. Rows of pines rose like blackened walls, casting shadows over the narrow trail, where each step crunched sharply against fallen leaves. In the distance, the wind howled in restless waves, carrying whispers in a language no one could quite recognize. Whispers that made anyone who entered feel watched. The campfire flickered, its small orange light struggling against the immense darkness devouring the forest. Smoke drifted into the air, mingling with the heavy scent of damp earth and the acrid resin of pine. From afar came the call of an owl and the sharp snap of a branch, as though something unseen was moving, quietly, deliberately. This was Ravenwood Forest, a place long whispered about, where no one should wander after sundown. In the nearby town, stories passed from lip to trembling lip. Anyone lost in Ravenwood after midnight would hear their name, called softly from the darkness. But when they turned, nothing. No one was there. Countless disappearances, never solved, had wrapped the forest in decades of dread. The authorities never banned camping here, but at the forest's edge, an old weather-worn sign warned, "Turn back before it's too late." In this forest, not every voice belongs to the living. But for a group of young friends craving thrill and adventure, such warnings were not deterrents. They were invitations. Tonight, 4 friends, Ethan, Chloe, Ryan, and Olivia, pitched their tent deep within Ravenwood. Seniors in college, they sought one last daring adventure before life pulled them onto separate paths. Darkness pressed in around the camp, thick, suffocating, so heavy that even their flashlights faded only a few feet ahead, then dissolved into blackness. Above, the sky was veiled by shifting clouds, smothering the full moon, revealing, now and then, fleeting silver glimmers that looked colder than light itself. The wind threaded through the treetops with strange whistles, sometimes sharp, sometimes soft, sometimes disturbingly close, like breath against the ear. Every passing moment, the forest revealed something more, something unsettling. The drip, drip, drip of unseen water echoing. The insects suddenly falling silent as if commanded by an invisible force to hold their breath. And then, the faint rhythm of footsteps on damp earth, far away, yet impossibly distinct. Ethan swept his flashlight again and again into the dark, finding only moss-covered trunks. But once, just once, he swore he saw a figure standing there, motionless, before it melted away into nothing. Near midnight, the fire shrank to a dim glow, only embers pulsing faintly within the ash. Chloe pulled her jacket tighter, trembling, not only from the cold. She heard it, a sound unlike the rest, a whisper, threading through the wind, a voice, calling her name. Long, drawn out, faint yet chilling. "Chloe?" Her head snapped around. Nothing. Ryan and Olivia were still talking. Ethan rummaged in his backpack for wood. No one noticed. Only the forest's breath grew harsher, carrying the smell of damp rot deeper into her lungs. The longer Chloe stared into the dark, the more the trees seemed to move. Shadows shifted, twisting into hollow eyes staring back at her. Her heart pounded. Cold sweat trickled down her skin. Something was there, watching, waiting. Then, laughter. A quiet, chilling giggle rising from the depths of the forest. Small, but sharp enough to freeze them all. Olivia clutched Ryan's arm, her voice trembling. Who would still be here at this hour? Ethan tried to steady them. He insisted it was an animal, or just an echo. But his voice, it wavered. Even he could not ignore the unnatural cold pressing closer and closer. He knew the rumors. But he never thought they could make reality bend like this. The air grew tighter, the night heavier. The campfire's glow no longer touched the dark. Each gust of wind carried whispers, unfinished words in a language too old to understand. And yet, if one listened closely, each of them could swear their own name was being spoken, out there in the dark. Ravenwood Forest, once only a haunting tale, was alive now, breathing, watching, its silence heavy with a threat unseen. Midnight was approaching, and with it the fragile boundary between the living and the dead began to thin. The campfire crackled in the night, its light casting shifting shadows across the faces gathered close around it. At first glance, they looked like nothing more than ordinary college students on a weekend adventure. But beneath the surface, each carried thoughts, fears, that none of them realized Ravenwood would awaken. Ethan Carter, 22, was the one who had sparked the idea of this trip. A student of archaeology, fascinated by places steeped in myth and legend. Ethan believed every strange phenomenon could be explained by science, and this trip was his chance to prove it. In his backpack lay more than tents and food, a recorder, a camera, and a notebook, always ready to capture evidence. Ethan was strong, determined, but his drive to prove himself often pushed him too far. He wanted to be the anchor for his friends. Yet, as the firelight flickered over his face, there was a shadow in his eyes. Tension, as though he too needed convincing that the legends were nothing but stories. Beside him sat Claire Matthews, his oldest friend since high school. Where Ethan was rational, Claire was sensitive, dreamy, even superstitious. A literature student, she was drawn to folklore and ancient tales. It was Claire who told the group about Ravenwood's whispers, voices calling one's name in the dark, voices that belonged to no one among them. Her wide blue eyes often strayed into the void beyond the fire, unable to mask her unease. Yet it was her unease that made her listen closer, catching details the others ignored. Deep down, Claire had not wanted to be here, but Ethan's insistence and a quiet pull to confront the truth had brought her. If Ethan was reason, Claire was instinct, and that instinct whispered now. This journey would not be ordinary. Across from them lounged Noah Bennett, tall and lean, a smirk constantly playing at his lips. A computer science student, Noah was skeptical of everything, quick with sarcasm. He believed neither in ghosts nor urban legends. To him, this trip was just an excuse to debunk childish ghost stories and post a few entertaining photos online. Yet he was the most prepared: flashlights, spare batteries, a folding knife, even a portable speaker. He intended to turn the night into a lighthearted camping trip, not a seance. Still, behind his mocking exterior, Noah's sharp awareness of signals and sounds meant he would be the first to notice if something went wrong. Tonight, his presence felt like a shield against fear, at least in the minds of the others. And then there was Emily Harris, the quietest of the four. Petite, soft-spoken, an art student who never went anywhere without her camera. Her photographs carried such haunting stillness that her friends often fell silent when they saw them. Emily was gentle, but her gaze was piercing, lingering on details others overlooked. The shape of shadows, the way wind shifted branches, the threads of moonlight between leaves. She rarely spoke her feelings, yet she harbored a quiet dread, the fear of being left behind in the dark. Tonight, as the wind swept cold through the trees, she clutched her camera tight, as if it were her tether to reality. 4 people, 4 minds, 4 ways of seeing this night. Ethan, eager to uncover truth. Claire, anxious yet curious. Noah, mocking, detached. Emily, silent, watchful. They were mismatched fragments, and yet together they formed a circle around the fire, a fragile glow against the endless dark of Ravenwood. The wind hissed through the trees, making Claire shiver. Noah only laughed, calling it just nature's song. Ethan checked his watch, scribbling notes into his journal. Emily lifted her camera, catching the moment when the firelight danced in the eyes of her friends. Each thought they knew why they had come, but the forest had reasons of its own. Above them, the sky was swallowed by black clouds, erasing the moon. The wind sharpened, carrying with it the damp, rotting breath of the woods. None of them spoke it aloud, but each felt it. Something was watching, patient, silent, and deep inside them, though none would admit it, the seed of unease had already begun to grow. Ravenwood was not just an ordinary forest. The people of Ashburn, a small town in the north of England, had passed down stories about this place for generations. By day, Ravenwood looked no different from any other forest. Towering ancient oaks, moss clinging thick to their roots, winding trails carved out by hikers. But when night fell, the forest seemed to transform into something else, alive, breathing, with sounds that belonged to no creature found in nature. And the secret of Ravenwood lay buried in a tragedy long forgotten by time. Over 100 years ago, at the end of the 19th century, there was a small village at the edge of the woods. That village had once been peaceful, until a string of mysterious disappearances began. First, it was the children. Then, the hunters. Finally, even the women were not spared. Each time, witnesses spoke of the same thing. Someone heard their name being called from within the forest, soft and gentle, like the voice of a loved one. And once they stepped inside, they never returned. Survivors claimed that sometimes, in the dead of night, they saw familiar figures drifting between the trees, the lost wife, the child who had died too young, the brother who had fallen in war. All of them beckoned, whispering their names. No one could resist, and no one ever came back. They said a spirit lingered in the woods, a woman named Eliza Moore. Once, she had been a kind young mother, loved in the village for her gentleness and the way she guided children through the forest to pick berries, telling them fairy tales. But one bitter winter, her only son wandered into Ravenwood and never returned. Eliza searched for him day after day, through snow and freezing winds. When at last they found her, she was frozen to death beneath a great oak, her eyes wide open, staring into the endless shadows of the forest. The villagers believed Eliza's soul never left Ravenwood. Her desperate, unyielding love had twisted her into something eternal, forever searching, forever calling for her child. But in time, her voice changed. It was no longer just for her son. It called to anyone who strayed too close. A hunger, endless and unquenched. The legend of Eliza Moore grew darker with each retelling. People whispered that she no longer appeared as herself. She could become anyone you loved, any voice you trusted. She slipped into your mind, spoke your name with unbearable familiarity, and lured you deeper into the dark. And once you answered, your fate was sealed. The villages around Ravenwood emptied over the years. No one dared enter anymore, though its timber was precious, though the land was fertile. In time, Ravenwood became forbidden ground, surviving only in the whispers of the old. The young scoffed, thinking it was nothing more than a story to frighten children. But folklorists came, writing it down, naming it, the Whisperer of Ravenwood. Ethan knew the tale. He had read about Ravenwood in an old university archive. That was why he wanted to come. He wanted to prove it was nothing more than collective imagination. But Claire was different. She had grown up with these stories. Her grandmother once whispered to her that during the war, soldiers fleeing through Ravenwood never returned. They had heard voices, voices of their mothers, their wives, their comrades, and then they were gone. Strangely, each time someone disappeared, the forest grew quiet for a while. No more whispers, no more names. But after a few years, the voices always returned, as if Ravenwood never slept too long, always needing more souls to keep it alive. The bravest tried to explain it away. Some said it was the wind slipping through the branches, creating illusions of voices. Some claimed it was mass hysteria, fear and imagination blending into something irresistible. But no one could explain why the voices always knew the exact names, why the tones were so familiar, so intimate. No one could explain why those who followed never left behind even a body. Now as Ethan, Claire, Noah, and Emily sat by their campfire, they knew only fragments of the tale. To them, Ravenwood was just another place to explore. But to the forest, their presence was something else. A new chapter in its long history of swallowed souls. In the darkness, the wind still hissed through the leaves, carrying with it something that almost sounded like a whisper. Ethan ignored it. Noah scoffed. Claire stiffened. And Emily sat in silence, her eyes fixed on the black maze of trees, where shadows twisted together like countless arms reaching out, waiting. They did not yet understand that the forest whispers was no fairy tale. It was truth, etched into every branch, every gust of wind, every fragment of shadow in Ravenwood. And the Whisperer had been waiting, far longer than human memory. The first night in Ravenwood was quieter than the group expected. After setting up camp, they gathered around the fire, sharing canned food and laughter, trying to push away the unease pressing in from the dark. Ethan kept his voice steady, insisting that the legends of Ravenwood were nothing but the product of collective fear. Yet deep down, he felt it. The heavy silence, so thick it seemed to swallow even the crackle of burning wood. Claire kept turning her head toward the trees. She swore she heard faint sounds, the rustle of leaves, the snap of dry twigs. Noah teased her, saying it was just a squirrel, maybe a fox. Emily said nothing. She only listened, her eyes wide, as if memorizing every sound. When the fire dwindled, they crawled into their tents. The night deepened. Wind screamed through the mountain pass, rattling the canvas. Ethan tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Just as he pulled the blanket over his head, a strange sound rose, a whisper. Very soft, but clear. Someone was calling his name. Ethan! He bolted upright, heart pounding. The voice wasn't inside the tent. It came from outside, deep within the forest. He strained to listen. Only the wind. He exhaled, convincing himself it was exhaustion. But when he lay down again, the voice returned, gentler, warmer. His mother's voice. Ethan, my son. His throat tightened. His mother had been gone for years. He shut his eyes, forcing himself to ignore it. Hours later, half dreaming, he finally slipped into restless sleep. At dawn, Ethan said nothing, but Claire whispered that she too had heard something, footsteps circling the tent. Yet when she shone her flashlight, there was nothing. Noah laughed. You two are too easy to spook. It's just a forest. Emily didn't laugh. She asked quietly, but what if someone really is out there? No one answered. That day, they pressed deeper into Ravenwood. The further they went, the stranger it felt. No bird song, no insect hum, only the echo of their own footsteps. Claire grew restless. Each time she glanced back, she thought she glimpsed movement between the trees. Once, she swore she saw a little boy in a red coat darting into the woods. But when they searched, nothing. By dusk, they camped near a massive oak. This time, Noah stayed up, determined to prove he wasn't afraid. With a beer bottle in hand, he sat by the fire alone. Ethan, Claire, and Emily slept. The air was still, the only sound the fire crackling low. Then, he heard it. A laugh, soft, familiar. He froze. His stomach turned to ice. It was Sarah's laugh. His sister. Sarah, who had died in a car accident years ago. Sarah? He whispered. The laugh answered him, and her. A figure in the shadows, the long hair, the summer dress Sarah once wore. Without thinking, Noah shot to his feet and followed. Step by step, he drifted deeper into the forest, the firelight shrinking behind him. With every step, the voice grew clearer. Come closer. Noah! Little brother. His whole body trembled. His mind screamed that this was wrong, impossible. But his heart ached, desperate to see Sarah once more. When the fire had vanished behind him, he stopped. Darkness surrounded him. No Sarah. No laughter. Only the howl of wind through the branches. He turned, ready to run back. A new voice breathed against his ear. Low. Cold. Stay. Noah stumbled, terror surging through him. He sprinted toward camp. By the time he returned, sweat drenched his body. Ethan woke to the sound and asked what happened. Noah shook his head, forcing a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. Guess I'm drunk, that's all. But the fear burning in his gaze betrayed him. That night, none of them slept. Each heard something. Footsteps circling the camp, whispers at their ears, the hollow knock of something striking the tent walls. Claire clung to Emily, her eyes wide in the dark. Ethan lay still, his mind spiraling with a single thought. Ravenwood wasn't just a forest. It was a trap, sprung long ago. At dawn, they found footprints, not theirs, not animal. Faint, long, pressed deep, bare feet, walking through the freezing night. And they stopped beneath the massive oak, the very place where Eliza Moore was said to have died. That morning, the group was heavier than the mist hanging over Ravenwood. No laughter, no jokes, only silence. and the memory of those footprints circling their camp. They stared at one another, each waiting for someone to offer a rational explanation. None came. Ethan crouched to study the ground. His training in biology made the truth clear. These weren't animal tracks. They were human. Bare feet pressed into the wet soil. Toes too long, nails gouged deep into the mud. He swallowed hard and rose, avoiding Claire's anxious gaze. Maybe it's just a prank, Ethan forced out. Someone messing with us. Noah smirked, voice sharp. Yeah? Who the hell runs barefoot in the middle of winter in this forest? Silence. The rest of the day they clung to routine, collecting wood, cooking small talk. But the air never lightened. Emily barely spoke, her eyes drifting far away, snapping back whenever she thought she heard her name whispered. Claire stayed pale, pressed close to Ethan. Noah tried to act normal, but his hand trembled when he lit a cigarette. Ethan knew Noah had seen something in the woods, and his silence was tearing at the group. Night came. Fire burned bright, but its warmth felt false. Claire whispered, maybe we should go back. The others froze. Then Noah laughed too loudly, his voice thin. Day 2, and you want to quit? We came here to prove Ravenwood's a myth. Go home now, and it's like admitting we're scared. Emily's eyes fixed on him. But there is something wrong here. You heard it too, didn't you? Noah opened his mouth to deny it, but her stare froze him. He looked away, shoulders tense, and said nothing. That night was worse. Around midnight, Claire jolted awake. Someone was watching her. She glanced around. Emily fast asleep, Noah snoring. Ethan turned away, but the feeling only grew stronger. Heart racing, she sat up and listened. A whisper slid against the canvas. Claire! Claire! It was Ethan's voice. Her blood turned cold. She looked down. Ethan lay still beside her. She shook him awake, whispering frantically, Ethan, do you hear that? He blinked, groggy. Hear what? And then they both heard it. Clear, soft, beckoning. Claire, come to me. Claire dug her nails into his arm. Ethan shot upright, flashlight in hand. The beam cut through trees, branches, endless night. Nothing. The voice was gone. In the morning, Claire told them all. Noah scowled. Hallucination. You're wound too tight. Claire snapped. Then what about the footprints? What about what you saw that night, Noah? You think I didn't notice? Color rose in his cheeks. He stayed silent. Emily's voice broke the tension, trembling. Maybe. The forest wants to divide us. No one spoke, but the thought settled inside them like rot. From that day, trust fractured. Ethan tried to cling to logic, but the voices he'd heard on the first night haunted him. The more he thought, the less he trusted his own mind. Emily grew distant, scribbling in a notebook she hid whenever someone drew near. Claire stared into the woods, flinching at every shadow. Noah drank more, his laughter hollow, masking the dread that never left his eyes. Each of them was haunted by a call of their own, but they no longer dared to share it. On the third night, wind tore through the forest. Rain hammered the tents. They huddled together, listening to the storm pound the canvas. But beneath the roar of water, Ethan heard something else. A laugh, thin, high. A child's laugh woven into the downpour. He turned to Claire. She was shaking, eyes wide, staring back at him. She had heard it too. Neither spoke. In that moment, Ethan understood the horror. Ravenwood didn't need claws or teeth to kill them. It only needed whispers, doubt, fear. It would make them destroy themselves. And it was already working. The rain that night dragged on until morning, leaving Ravenwood Forest shrouded in a suffocating mist. Droplets slid from the treetops onto the tent's roof like patient, deliberate knocks, each one pounding against the group's frayed nerves. None of them had slept well. Each carried their own haunting, and none dared to confess it. Ethan was the first to step outside. He needed air, but the damp, moldy stench of earth after rain weighed heavy on his chest. Nearby, the old footprints had faded, yet new ones had appeared. Fresh, clear. This time, they circled the camp before vanishing into the trees. He froze. Something had walked around their tent while they slept. Ethan didn't tell Claire, didn't call Emily or Noah to see. He knew. If he said it aloud, the fragile thread holding them together would snap. When he returned inside, Emily was whispering to herself. She clutched her notebook tight, scribbling frantic lines across the page. Ethan caught a glimpse. Don't trust the voices. They are not them. Don't look into the dark. Emily snatched it away, her eyes glassy, wild. Noah had grown volatile. When Claire timidly suggested they should go back, he exploded. Shut up! If you want to quit, then leave alone. Everyone froze. Claire burst into tears. Ethan tried to step in, but Noah shoved him off, eyes bloodshot, trembling with an animal rage. For a fleeting moment, Ethan thought Noah wasn't his friend anymore. He was something caged, ready to bite. The group barely spoke that day. Even the birds fell silent, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. That night, the rain finally eased, but the wind came in long, howling gusts, turning the trees into shrieking pipes. They sat around the fire, the glow tiny, fragile against the infinite dark. Ethan noticed their shadows flickering on the trees, warping, twisting, sometimes multiplying. More than 4. He blinked again and again, but the vision lingered. Emily's cracked voice broke the silence. I hear them, whispering. They call my name, then yours. Every night, they know us, all of us. Claire covered her face, sobbing. I heard it too, Ethan's voice, right outside the tent. But he was lying next to me. Ethan squeezed her hand, but didn't deny it. He couldn't. Noah barked a laugh, but it was jagged, fragile. So what? They're hallucinations. Anyone can hear voices in the wind if they're tired enough. But then, the wind carried a sound. Clear, distinct. Noah, his name, stretched, cold, called from the forest itself. They all shot to their feet. Noah's face went pale. His flashlight swung wildly through the trees as he shouted, Who's there? Show yourself! Nothing, only the forest shifting. But they had all heard it. No denying now that night, they agreed to take turns keeping watch. Ethan and Noah took the first shift. But around 3 a.m, Claire jolted awake to find them both gone. Panic-stricken, she shook Emily, and together they stumbled out. Ethan's flashlight lay at the edge of the woods. No sign of them. Claire screamed, Ethan! Noah! Nearly 10 minutes passed before the two emerged from the darkness, their faces pale, clothes drenched though no rain had fallen. Ethan trembled, shaking his head at Claire's desperate questions. Noah bit down hard on his lip, refusing to speak. By morning, Emily broke. She packed her bag, muttering, I'm finding cell signal. Staying here is suicide. I won't hear the voices anymore. Ethan tried to stop her, but she tore away. Claire begged through tears. Emily disappeared into the fog. 3 remained, and the cracks had widened into a canyon. Noah didn't sleep. He paced, muttering curses at the forest. Claire curled into herself, her face gaunt, haunted. Ethan clung to reason, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw a figure outside the tent, standing just beyond the thin fabric. The next night, the wind screamed through the trees. Then came footsteps, dozens of them, running in circles around the tent, fast, relentless, before stopping dead. Then came the laughter, quiet, childlike, not one voice, many. Claire broke down screaming. Noah seized the hunting knife, bolted into the dark. Come on, I'm not afraid of you. Ethan grabbed at him but couldn't hold him back. Noah's footsteps thundered away, swallowed by the night. Claire sobbed. Ethan, we have to go! We have to go now! But then it came, a scream. Noah's scream, shattered, piercing the forest, cut off abruptly as if strangled mid-breath. Ravenwood had begun its true hunt. Noah's scream was swallowed by the night, slicing into their minds like a knife. Claire screamed his name again and again, her voice breaking with despair, while Ethan stood frozen, flashlight trembling in his hand. The forest air grew so heavy it felt like breathing in ashes. We have to find him, Claire sobbed, her voice ragged. Ethan knew he couldn't abandon her. He nodded, though fear and the raw instinct to survive tangled in his chest. Together, they raised their flashlights and plunged into Ravenwood's darkness. The beams cut through the mist, flickering across trees warped like colossal ribs. Every step sank into damp earth, squelching with obscene, breath-like noises at their ears. Noah! Ethan shouted, But the echo that answered wasn't his own. Ethan. Claire, help me. The voice. Noah's voice. But it came from everywhere. North, south, east, west. Splintered, distorted, carried on the wind. Claire gripped Ethan's hand, whispering, lips trembling. That's not him. And yet she still walked, dragged by despair. They stopped when they saw it. Noah's hunting knife buried deep into a tree trunk. The blade glistened wet, smeared with something thick and dark. Ethan's beam revealed it. Blood. Fresh, still dripping. Claire's knees buckled, her hand trembling as it brushed the sticky red. Oh God! A sound cracked behind them. Ethan spun, light whipping through the fog, his heart seized. A figure stood 10 meters away, half hidden, half revealed, tall, thin, its face blurred, but its eyes burned, cold, luminescent blue. Noah? Claire whispered. The figure moved, slowly, stepping out of the mist. Not Noah. Its face convulsed, flesh twisting like a mask tearing apart. And when it opened its mouth, the voice was Noah's. Claire, come here. Claire shrieked, stumbling back, tripping over roots. Ethan hauled her up, flashlight swinging wildly. When the beam returned, the figure was gone. But the forest erupted. Laughter. Not faint anymore, but booming, layered, dozens of voices at once. Emily's voice, Noah's voice, even their own voices. Ethan, Claire, stay with us. They were surrounded by warped reflections of themselves. The earth quivered beneath their feet as if the whole forest breathed. Leaves rattled without wind, like unseen hands clawing through them. Cold radiated from the dark, sinking into their bones. Ethan dragged Claire forward. They ran, lights jerking across twisted trunks. But Ravenwood refused to let them go. Every path curved back to the tree where Noah's knife was buried. A closed loop, a cage. Then a pale hand shot from the mist, seizing Claire. She screamed, crashing to the ground, clawing at it. Ethan's beam struck the hand, and he saw it. Not flesh, rotting tissue, slick veins pulsing black. He smashed the flashlight into it. The hand recoiled, vanished. But dozens more surged forth, from the ground, from tree roots, from the mist itself. Ethan wrenched Claire away. They staggered, screaming, gasping. The voices pressed closer. Stay. You belong here. At last they stumbled into a clearing. At its heart loomed a colossal tree, its trunk so wide 4 people could not encircle it. Its bark split open by a gaping wound like a mouth. Claire trembled, whispering, Ethan? I hear him. Noah. Inside. And yes, groans seeped from the slit in the tree. Noah's voice. Help me, please. Ethan stiffened. A trap. He knew it. But Claire couldn't take it anymore. She broke free, rushing forward. You don't understand, she sobbed. I can't abandon him. Before Ethan could stop her, she pressed her ear to the fissure. Arms shot out. Black, veined, clawed hands seized her, yanking hard. Claire screamed, eyes wide, reaching for Ethan. Help me, Ethan. He lunged, clutching her arms, pulling with everything he had. But the strength dragging her inward was monstrous, as if the entire forest was swallowing her. For an instant, their eyes locked, her face twisted in pure terror. Then she was gone, ripped into the tree's gaping maw. Silence. The bark sealed, as though it had never opened. Ethan collapsed to the ground, gasping, his hands still tingling with the icy memory of hers. Ravenwood had claimed another, and now Ethan knew. He was next. Ethan sat on the cold ground, his chest heaving as if it would burst. The darkness of Ravenwood swallowed him whole, so thick it devoured even his breath. Claire was gone. Emily too. Noah. He didn't know if Noah was still alive or already crushed inside the forest's belly. He was alone. The flashlight lay a few steps away, flickering weakly. Ethan crawled toward it, picked it up, but his hand trembled violently. For a moment, he wanted to let it all go, just lie down and let the forest finish its work. But then, the image of Claire being dragged away, her pleading eyes, cut into his heart like a blade. No, I won't let them win. Ethan whispered, his voice cracking, as though even he didn't believe his own words. He looked around. For the first time, he realized Ravenwood was not just a forest. It was like a giant body, each trunk a vein, each branch a finger. The ground beneath him breathed, pulsing slowly, steadily through the damp earth. A shriek echoed, long and piercing, like metal grinding against metal. From the mist, figures emerged. Slow, relentless, their faces shifted endlessly. Noah, Claire, then twisted, unfamiliar masks. Each time their mouths opened, they released broken sounds, a chorus of voices layered on top of one another. Stay, with us, the forest whispered in unison. Ethan stumbled back, clutching Noah's knife he had picked up earlier. The blade was heavy, crusted with dried blood. He knew. Only one choice remained: fight or be devoured. One shadow lunged. Ethan spun, slashed. Steel tore through black flesh. No blood, only thick slime spraying out, reeking foul. The thing screamed, but it didn't fall. Instead, it split into two, both advancing. God. Ethan panted, cold sweat pouring. He ran. The path ahead opened into a clearing, where pale moonlight pierced through the mist. At the center stood a ring of ancient stones, moss creeping over their jagged surfaces, arranged in a circle, like the mark of some forgotten ritual. As Ethan stepped inside, the whispers softened. The air grew heavy. The forest seemed to pause, watching, waiting. A chill raced down his spine, but he knew this was his only chance. He knelt, drove the knife into the soil. His voice shook, yet he forced it strong. If you want me, come out. Don't hide behind stolen faces. For a moment, Ravenwood fell silent. Then the earth trembled. The stones glowed faintly, etched with symbols he had never seen. The mist swirled, pulling into a shape. A figure emerged, taller than any shadow before. A skeletal frame, ribs jutting like rotten wood, its skin clinging like charred leather. Its head, no face, only a black void swirling with countless human visages, screaming, crying, laughing madly. And Ethan saw Claire, Emily, Noah. A voice rolled from the void, deep, layered with thousands of tones. You will be part of me. Ethan rose, knife trembling in his hand. He screamed, I don't belong to you. The entity surged forward, fast as a storm. Ethan dove aside, blade cutting into its elongated arm. But instead of tearing, it dissolved into mist, then reformed instantly. Darkness spilled into the stone circle. A crushing weight pressed against his chest, stealing his breath. The faces inside the void shrieked, clawing at his mind. And then, Claire's voice, clear, undeniable. Ethan, give in. Stay with me. Tears blurred his vision, his heart breaking. But he snarled through clenched teeth. No, you're not her. He raised the knife, plunged it straight into the black void. The blade sank deep, and for the first time the entity screamed in agony. Faces shattered into black smoke. The stones blazed with light, flooding the forest in blinding brilliance. Ethan was thrown back, slammed against the ground. His ears rang, his sight dimmed. Through the haze, he saw the creature shrivel, howling, collapsing, then burst apart into countless fragments of shadow, sucked down into the earth. The clearing fell silent. The wind died. Ravenwood froze in eerie stillness. Ethan crawled up, drained. He looked around. Claire was gone. Only Noah's knife remained, embedded in the earth, its blade blackened, as though seared by fire. He staggered forward, pulled it free, but there was no relief, only emptiness. He knew. This victory had brought no one back. Ravenwood lay quiet, but deep inside, Ethan felt it was not over. The light from the stones slowly faded, surrendering the forest back to its suffocating darkness. Ethan staggered within the circle, breath ragged, clothes soaked in sweat and dirt. No more shrieks, no more whispers. Ravenwood lay quiet, too quiet. The silence pressed heavier than the voices ever had. He shouted, his throat raw, Claire! Emily! Noah! The echoes bounced from the trees, then died into nothing. No answer. Ethan stumbled out of the stone ring, hollow, haunted. Claire's pleading eyes still burned in his mind, her final look before vanishing. The pain crushed him, strangling his heart. He followed the narrow path, but the deeper he went, the stranger it grew. Roots twisted like serpents, thorned bushes clawed at him, barring his way. The night stretched endlessly. The moon hung high, but its light never pierced the canopy. His foot struck something. Ethan bent down, his chest tightened. Claire's red scarf, damp with earth. He trembled, clutching it to his chest. No, don't leave me. For a moment, a faint laugh rippled through the dark. Ethan's head snapped up, flashlight sweeping the trees. Nothing. Only silence. He pressed on, each step sinking deeper into the feeling of being lost. Ravenwood shifted around him, twisting into a maze with no escape. At last, he collapsed by a massive tree. His body was done. His eyelids dragged him under. In a haze, he saw Claire. She sat beside him, smiling softly, her warm hand resting on his shoulder. "Ethan, I'm here. Don't be afraid." He broke down, held her tight. But then her face cracked, splintering like shattered porcelain. From within, hundreds of faces tore through, screaming, laughing, mad with frenzy. Ethan screamed, jolted awake. The forest loomed cold and empty. Tears streamed down, mixing with sweat. Then light, a faint glow ahead, fire. Hope surged. He forced himself up, staggering toward it. A crooked wooden cabin stood there, smoke curling from its chimney. Firelight flickered through the cracks, painting its shape in the mist. He knocked, voice raw. "Please, is someone there? Help me." The door creaked open. An old woman, hair white, eyes clouded, stared at him. She said nothing, only stepped back. Instinct pulled Ethan inside. Warmth. Fire roared in the hearth. Ethan sank before it, shivering, nearly broken. The old woman sat across from him, clutching a cup of thick black tea. Her voice rasped, "You are the last. The others, the forest has taken them." Ethan's head jerked up, stunned. You know?" She nodded, slow, deliberate. "Ravenwood never spares. It calls their names. It keeps them. And you, if you escape, it will hunger more." Ethan gripped Claire's scarf, rage flooding his chest. "I won't let Claire and my friends just vanish like that." The old woman's lips curled into a twisted smile. "Do you think you have a choice?" The cabin shifted. The fire died. Shadows consumed the room. Her face cracked, skin peeling away, revealing layer upon layer of writhing faces beneath, just like the entity from the stone circle. Ethan screamed, bolted outside, and the forest was waiting, endless, devouring him again. He ran, and ran, and ran. No way out. The whispers rose from every tree. "Ethan, stay, forever." He fell to his knees, clutching the red scarf tight, his vision blurred. The forest hummed like a lullaby, pulling him into the dark. Morning came. Ravenwood stood calm, untouched. The wind rustled leaves, birds sang. No one knew the screams of the night. No one knew the souls it had consumed. Only one thing remained. On the path at the forest's edge, someone found a red scarf, soaked in dew. Still warm, as if someone had just held it close. Weeks passed since that dreadful night, yet Ravenwood still loomed there, silent, as if it had never swallowed a single soul. The nearby townsfolk went on with their daily lives, but in hushed whispers at the pub, in murmurs over coffee, the name Ravenwood surfaced again and again, like a scar that refused to heal. The police had searched the forest, but what they brought back was pitiful. A mud-caked shoe, a shattered phone, and a faded red scarf. No bodies, no clear traces. The missing, Claire, Emily, Noah, and Ethan, were written off in the records as mysterious disappearances. Their families wept. Then, powerless, they let go. For there was nothing left to hope for. Ravenwood returned to silence. But silence does not mean emptiness. Those who wandered inside later claimed they felt eyes watching them. Some heard faint laughter threading through the midnight air. Others swore they saw a figure standing behind the trees, familiar in shape, like a lost friend returned. Months later, a group of curious students decided to camp there, daring the forest as if it were only a game. They gathered around the fire, trading old ghost stories. At first, everything seemed normal. But at midnight, one girl suddenly stiffened, her face pale. "Who just called my name?" The others laughed, told her she was hearing things. But minutes later, they all heard it. A deep, rasping male voice echoing through the trees. Sarah. None of them were named Sarah. Panic set in. They smothered the fire, snatched up their belongings, and fled in chaos. Only once they escaped Ravenwood did they realize something far worse. In the group photo they had taken before entering, a stranger was standing among them. A young man, hair disheveled, eyes hollow, his hand clutching a red scarf. The picture spread across town, then vanished as quickly as it appeared. But the whispers lingered. People began to say that the souls Ravenwood devoured never truly disappeared. They stayed, drifting between the trees, calling out names to anyone foolish enough to step inside. Years later, the wooden cabin at the forest's edge, the one where those friends first camped, was abandoned, rotting. And yet, on nights when the moon shone bright, people claimed to see firelight flickering within, as though someone gathered there still. If anyone dared press an ear against the wall, they heard muffled voices inside, the voices of Claire, Emily, Noah, and Ethan. But their words were no longer human, warped, broken, as though rising from the pit of the earth. One man, braver or more foolish than the rest, once called into the cabin, "Who are you?" And the only answer, drawn out and cold, was, "We are still here." From then on, Ravenwood ceased being just a forest. It became a living trap, a gateway where memories and souls rotted but never left. And so the townsfolk warned each other, never answer when someone calls your name in the woods, because that voice may not belong to a friend, but to the whispers that linger forever in the dark. If your heart just trembled for a moment while hearing this story, leave your thoughts below. Who knows, maybe your experience was once the same. And if you want to keep walking with me into the next chilling nights, don't forget to hit subscribe. Be prepared, because the darkness has never slept. And next time, it just might call your name.